This brother of yours was dead and is alive again. So during the last 3 weeks, we've been focusing on this particular parable in terms of the younger son, the older son, and the loving father. The parable of the lost son is the last of the 3 parables Jesus told in Luke 15. In this chapter that we read, Luke recorded Jesus' parable of the lost sheep, the lost coin, and lastly, the lost son that we've just read together. Those who heard these parables were Jews. That was the audience. They were Jews who lived under the Mosaic law, specifically the Pharisees and scribes. Jesus told these parables in response to them. Luke recorded their conversation in Luke chapter 15, verse 1, to let us know why Jesus shared these parables. And here's why. Here's the conversation. Luke chapter 15, verse 1 says, "Now all the tax collectors and the sinners were coming near him to listen to him. Both the Pharisees and the scribes began to grumble, saying, 'This man receives sinners and eats with them.'" To recap, the Pharisees and scribes were saying that because tax collectors and sinners, the lowest of the low in that society during Bible times, were coming to hear Jesus, and he was receiving the tax collectors and sinners just as he received them. So they were not happy about that. One can imagine their conversation among one another. They wanted to hear what Jesus was teaching, but they were very annoyed at the same time that they had to share that same space with tax collectors and sinners, the lowest of the lows. This was the context in which Jesus told these 3 parables. In the parable of the lost son, the younger son represents the tax collectors and sinners, while the older son represents the self-righteous, the Pharisees, and the teachers of the law during Bible times. Today, we can also see ourselves in the younger and older son as well. We talked about lots of things in terms of what we can learn from each of the characters in this parable, but I would like for you to take a step back now and focus on just one thing that is a growth area for you to work on by the end of this sermon. I've said this before many, many times, but multitasking or doing many different things at one time is never the recipe for success. Successful people usually work on one thing at a time to the best of their ability. If we have too many things going on, something will have to be neglected. That's a fact. So the focus for today is to go home and think about, or you're already in your homes, you're going to think about that one thing that you're going to hone in on. So let's get started. So again, I want you to focus on that one thing. Just one thing from today that you can focus on, which is a growth area. Which area of your life do you want to be better in? Maybe you already know that one thing and you've already known that for a long time. Perhaps it's a note or a main point from a previous sermon that we've had. Or maybe today you'll be able to identify that one thing that you're going to do and focus on. So I have some suggestions. First, I have 2 suggestions for you. If you follow Jesus, I'm not saying to do both of them. I'm saying that maybe one of them makes sense for you to work on. Now, I know that not everyone who is tuning in today is Christian. I do not want to make the assumption that everyone online and even everyone in this building, in our church building, is a Christian. That's okay. We're on our way. You are welcomed here regardless. And for those of you who don't follow Jesus, just listen to these first suggestions, and then I'll share an idea for you that points to that one thing towards the end. So the first suggestion for your one thing is, number 1, you don't need to seek opportunity. Seek God. When you seek God, opportunity will seek you. But it's usually the other way around. So I'm going to read this again, and you'll see it on your slide. You don't need to seek opportunity, seek God. When you seek God, opportunity will seek you. In the parable of the lost son, the younger son was only concerned with the opportunities he wanted on earth. He spent a lot of time dreaming, planning, and living away from home. He was looking for worldly opportunity to find meaning. And how did that work out for him? Not too well, right? In this moment, when he was at his lowest, he decided to seek God instead of chasing after earthly opportunities. It's likely he thought returning to his father would mean that all of the opportunities that he previously had would be gone as well. Still, he returned home, apologized, and this happened in Luke chapter 15, verses 22 to 24. But the father said to his servants, "Quick, bring the best robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. Bring the fattened calf and kill it. Let's have a feast and celebrate, for the son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found." So they began to celebrate. When the younger son returned to God, his opportunity wasn't taken from him. It was given to him. He wasn't punished in that moment. He was praised and celebrated. We are all guilty of looking to the world for opportunity, looking to the world to tell us how valuable we are and what we can and cannot do. We need to hear this. You don't need to seek opportunity. You need to seek God. When you seek God, opportunity will then seek you. There is a difference between seeking God first, praying to God, and then making a decision instead of making decisions and then just asking God to bless your decision along the way. And we're very guilty of that. We make decisions on our own. We have prayer requests. We do lots of things. We seek opportunities. And the last thing we do is we want God to bless those things that we already decided that we're going to do. What opportunities do you have? Why not take those hopes, plans, and dreams to God first? Why not trust God's timing? Yes, it'll take patience, but you will experience God in a new and exciting way. The second idea of your one thing, for those of you who follow Jesus, is this. Number 2, just as God forgives us without limit, we should forgive others. The older brother was furious at the loving father for offering forgiveness to his brother. The older brother thought that since he had made all the right decisions and he obeyed all the time, he was better than or deserved more than his younger brother. But the loving father offered forgiveness while at the same time affirming the older brother. In chapter 15, verses 31 to 32, he affirms his older son by saying, "My son," the father said, "you are always with me, and everything I have is yours." But we had to celebrate and be glad because this brother of yours was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found. We are all guilty of holding a grudge. How many of you hold grudges? I do. We at some point thought that since the other person made the wrong choice, they should have to pay big time. We're always trying to figure out judgment on others, the punishment for others, the consequence for others. Here's the deal. God forgave you, me, and everyone. He's the only one who first loved us, and he forgives us. So just as God forgives us without limit, we should forgive others. And it really doesn't make sense to hold bitterness. It doesn't make sense for us to not forgive another person. It's important to learn from whatever happened, yes, but we always need to offer forgiveness. You can reflect all day. That's fine. But at the end of the day, we need to forgive because we are forgiven. The person who said this is unknown, but I like this quote. Not forgiving someone is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. I'm going to read that again because I find this very interesting. Not forgiving someone is like drinking poison yourself, but then expecting the other person to die. For those of us who follow Jesus, we must offer forgiveness. That's a non-negotiable. Do we have someone we need to forgive? Do you have someone you need to go to and ask to be forgiven? Even though we might be nervous or give forgiveness, even though it doesn't seem fair, because we talk about fairness all the time, even though we may still be upset, God forgives us without limit, and so we are also to forgive others. Whether you're a Christian or not, I have one thing for you to consider to close today. And this is true for everyone. So if you'd like to take this one thing as your focus, please do. And here it is. The secret to your future is hidden in your daily routine. The secret to your future is hidden in your daily routine. So I think about it in this way. I'm going to show you a slide with 2 jars. It's coming. Here are slides with 2 jars. The first jar that you see is filled with big rocks. The big rocks represent important things in your life, like your faith, like your family. The second jar has big rocks on the bottom, but it's filled with little pebbles on top. Some jars you can also fill that even with sand in all the crevices between the big rocks. This is kind of representative of what I'm trying to talk about. Sometimes we put big rocks after we put the pebbles, and then we don't have enough room to put the big rocks. The pebbles represent the nice things that make our lives easier. Like for me, it could be eating ice cream, because I've been eating a lot of ice cream. It could be playing video games, online shopping. It could be binge watching Netflix. It could be playing on your phone. It could be video games. It could be all sorts of things that we choose to do on a day-to-day basis that kind of define our daily routine. So the little rocks get filled, and our life is representative of the jar. If you put all the little pebbles, the sand, and the dirt that represents all the other things that are not as important as the big rocks, you'll never have enough space to put the big rocks when it's time to put them in. Just like that second picture. The pebbles are on the bottom and the big rocks are overflowing the top of the jar. But if we collectively decide to choose to fill our life or our jar with the most important things, seeking God, prayer, praising God, all of those things that are so fundamentally important to each and every one of us first, then we'll have enough room to fill our jar or life with things that make our lives a little bit better and maybe more enjoyable. Like for me, it's eating tons of ice cream. So we have to have our priorities straight when we think about our daily routines. So keep in mind that as you go about your daily routine, make sure you have time for the really important things and then leave space for the rest. No one is saying don't put anything else in your life or in your jar after you fill it with the big important stuff. It's what you put in first that matters. So the secret to your future is hidden in your daily routine. What matters to you most? What are the big rocks that you will fill your jar with? How do you plan for your day? It's important that we have time for the things that matter most in life. So I challenge you to write down what you think you spend most of your time doing. Do that for about a week and then review. I think you'd find some interesting things that you choose to do that maybe are not big rocks, but just the pebbles. What will your one thing be? Maybe you need to seek God before you seek opportunity. A lot of people are really busy, and we think our purpose is to become very busy. If we lead busy lives and we look busy, People interpret that as some kind of success, but it's not. Perhaps there is someone you need to forgive, or there is someone you need to go ask and say, I need for you to forgive me. A lot of times, people go into their own rooms, come to church, close their eyes, pray for forgiveness because they wronged somebody, and they have a long, beautiful conversation with God, but they never go to that person that they wronged. And when they see that person, the natural thing that most people say is, I'm good now. I repented. I told God what I did wrong, and He forgives me. Because the Bible tells me so. He forgives me all the time. But then they've never gone to that other person to ask for forgiveness. The whole point about having a really good, strong relationship with God is that it's reflective of a very good, strong relationship with other people. If you say, in fact, that you are okay with God and it's all good, then it should be that way with people around you. And so praying by yourself, asking God for forgiveness is wonderful. Please continue to do that. But you also need to go to the person that you wronged and ask them for their forgiveness. So you have peace between people and you, and also peace between you and God. Maybe you need to review your daily routine and how you spend it. Think about all the minutes you spend on doing certain things and compare it to the big rocks that you have in your life. Maybe you've never had a moment to really stop and think about, what are the big rocks in my life? What's really, really important to me? What you say and what you do could be two different things. So we need to have aligned ways of living. Whatever your one thing may be, I pray that it involves God in some way and that it centers around God. You've heard me say this again over and over, and I'll say it again, and I'll keep on saying it because it's super important. Nothing is more important on this planet than our relationship with God because He's our creator. Putting Him first allows us to find true joy, joy that we will never be able to find anywhere else.